So if I want to take the square root of 10 times the square root of 6, what we do is we simply multiply them. So the square root of 10 times the square root of 6 is the square root of 60. Now, can that be simplified, though? Well, yes, it can. So we're going to take it back apart. It's kind of interesting. We brought it together, and now we're taking it apart again. Kind of like an accordion. Now, what square number goes into 60? And that's what we're looking for, because we're breaking it apart, finding a square number that goes into 60. And hopefully you see it's 4 times 15. And the square root of 4 is 2. So my answer is 2 square root 15 is the answer to this multiplication problem. Now, in the past, weren't we starting with this and going this way? Now we're going from here to here and then taking it apart again. Do you see how we're kind of pushing it together, taking it back apart, and then simplifying? That is equivalent to that, is equivalent to that, is equivalent to that. Except this is the cleanest, simplest formation of it. Now, this problem right here, we're going to multiply these two. So to multiply those two, you are simply going to do 3 times 6. And then we're going to do x to the 4 plus 8. Now, you might wonder, where the heck do you get 4 plus 8 from? Well, when you multiply these two, don't you add powers? And then the 3 times 6, just multiply. So when we clean that up, we get the square root of 3 times 6 is 18, and 4 plus 8 is 12. Okay, now I got to simplify this. So I just multiplied it, but this multiplication answer is not simplified. Kind of like fractions need to be simplified, so do square roots. So let's break this up again. Kind of interesting. We put it together, now we break it up again. So 18, does 18 have a nice square root?
9.
Yes, it's 9 and 2. And then, well, what about this x to the 12th? Well, isn't there really a 2 out front? What you have to realize is this is really x to the 12 halves. Because isn't that 12 halves? This is the 2 hiding there. All right, let's see what that cleans up to look like. If I clean that up, let's go right down here. The square root of 9 is 3 times the square root of 2. And what is 12 divided by 2? That's x to the 6th. Now, that is simplified, but don't we usually put this in front and not behind the square root? So let's write it just a little bit cleaner, more commonly written. Answer, this will be a 3x to the 6th, the square root of 2. That would be the simplified form of that answer. This is the answer multiplied. This is the simplified version of that multiplication result, or called a product, is a result of a multiplication. So for this one, it's just like this. We just have a little bit more to deal with. So we're going to multiply 10 times 8, x to the 3rd times x to the 4th, and y times y to the 3rd. So watch what happens here. We get 10 times 8 is 80. X to the 3rd times x to the 4th is x to the 7th. And y to the 1st times y to the 3rd is y to the 4th. So we are done with multiplying. We now need to clean it up. So in order to clean it up, we're going to break it up again. So this is equal to, well, 80 can be broken up into 2 square roots. Hopefully you see, well, 4 goes into 80, but there's actually a bigger square number, and that is 16. A lot of people don't see 16 times 5 equaling 80. It's not my first thing to notice. Most of you would pull out a 4 and think you're done, but it actually has 2 4s inside. There's a 4 and then another 4. We're making a 16 times 5. A little bit trickier one. And then x to the, won't that be 7 halves? Won't that be a 7 out of 2, 7 halves? Hopefully you see that okay. And then the y is going to be a 4 halves. Again, it's 7. There's a 2 right here if you need to write it in. For some of you, can you put a 2 there? Help you see it? And so I have a 7 halves and a 4 halves right here. So what do we have now? Well, we have the square root of 16 is 4. The square root of 5, just stuck right there. Okay, the 7 halves. Okay, 7 halves. Isn't 7 halves equal to 5, not 5, what am I saying? Isn't it equal to 3 and 1/2? 7 halves is 3 and 1/2. So wouldn't that mean I have x to the third and a half left over, or a square root left over? If I have 7 1/2, I have 3 wholes and a half root, which is square root left over. And then the last one, 4/2, is simply y squared. Are we done? Not quite. We have to, the pieces that are outside the square root are going to combine. So can I combine all those? Leaving you 4x cubed y squared. And then can we combine these square root parts and put one big square root with a 5 and an x in it? And that right there is a simplified version of this. Now, technically, you look at this, that looks a lot cleaner, doesn't it? In my mind, that actually looks simpler, but this is the simplified version that you would want to learn to simplify down to.